Let's get to it. Alrighty, everybody, Steve here, the retired hobby tech guy, coming with you with another video. And this video is kind of interesting because I have been known to do a little bit of fitness here and there. Just a little bit, just a little bit. So, it's one of the things that I do being a retired American expat here in Korea who, you got to fill your days with something. You can't be 3D printing and painting all the time. You have to do something with your body. And as we get older, it's very important to exercise and do resistance training and do cardio training. And I really like it when old people like myself, I'm going to be 59 here real soon, and when I see older people getting on and sharing their experiences and getting into working out, which has a host of benefits. When we talk about cardio, if you do 75 minutes to 150 minutes of cardio a week of elevated heart rate, this could be walking, could be elliptical, bicycle, whatever it is, a number of different cardio events that you could do. Even just walking a couple times after meals can get your heart rate up and give you the heart benefits to where you could reduce heart issues up to 50%. And that is huge for seniors. That is really huge. Another thing that's really important for seniors is resistance training. There's a number of studies that have been done where resistance training for old people helps combat against sarcopenia. And for those people who don't know, that's muscle wasting that as you get older. And there's a number of reasons why that happens. One of the biggest ones is that seniors don't eat enough protein, let alone don't eat enough calories and carbs and fats, so they reduce their intake. Case in point, my grandparents, as they got older, their physical activity lessened and they lessened the amount of calories that they ate. So eventually my grandparents kind of shriveled down in next to nothing. And it's unfortunate because as they did not do any exercise or resistance training or even cardio training for that matter, the bones in their bodies became thin and brittle. And so another thing that resistance training does for seniors is that when you place a load onto your muscles, which transfers over to your bone and your skeletal system, your body responds to that stimulus by building more muscle and calcium. So you have stronger bones, so that way when you're old and you slip, trip, and fall, you don't break a hip, and after that, it's all downhill. So resistance training is very, very important. But I wanted to go over a video on this individual because he has posted a number of videos and reels, and he is absolutely clueless. And basically don't know what exercises work what muscles, and so we're going to take a look at this video. Okay, so here it is. This is the guy, and this is Leonid Sushinok, I think it's his name. My pronunciation is probably bad. It says, keep your back strong and open. So all of these exercises that he's going to be doing is going to be exercising the back. And so what we're going to end up doing is we're actually going to take a look at this, and then we'll go over the video and show you why it's not. And yeah, this is kind of crazy. So he starts off, and we'll just go ahead and hit play. And there he's doing like a chest workout. He's doing a fly movement with cables or with rubber bands. And then when you're doing a fly movement, what you're doing is exercising your chest. As you bring that together, you're starting to get that chest to come in and squeeze. So it's really a chest exercise. And then what we end up seeing here is that he comes up and he starts doing a pressing movement. So in other words, it's really kind of bad form because as you should, even with a rubber band or with weights, you keep your arms about in this position and you push out. There is no extra bonus points for bringing your hands into the middle. You really get a lot of the stretch in the down position, and if you just go before your arms go straight, you'll have more resistance onto the pectoral muscles, and because if you lock out, then you lose that tension on that muscle group. So it doesn't matter if you're using resistance bands, rubber bands, or if you're using weights, machines. Don't ever lock out, because what you're doing is you're stacking the weight on the structure of the skeletal system, and you're taking the tension off of the muscles. So it's kind of an important thing. A little detail, but it's something to consider. Now remember, he said all of these was to keep your back strong and open. So far, we've seen nothing but chest exercises. Okay, so now he goes up and he's like, okay, well, we're doing this kind of going up movement. And this is kind of interesting because he leaves the resistance bands attached to the same place as they were for everything else. And really, that's kind of a chest exercise, but as you bring the bands up, what you're going to be working is your front delts. And yeah, again, there's nothing on the back that is being worked on. You don't open the back by doing this movement where you bring these bands up. Now, actually, the position of these bands is at the same level as it is with everything else. So once he gets it, when it's down low, you're not getting a lot of resistance. And the full resistance is going to be when he locks it out. But as soon as he gets up to that position there and locks it out, what happens is you're losing that tension again. So this is a really poor example of how to use bands or cable machines. And again, it's not for your back. It absolutely isn't. I mean, this could be a front delt exercise. It works a little bit as you bring it up, but you're going to get more activation of that front delt than you are. There's no back being used here, absolutely. That's not even being worked. And the chest, as you bring it up, it's not working the back. And the way that you should be doing is that these bands should be connected towards the calves or the bottom part of the rack that's behind him. So the line of force and resistance is that as he goes up will be constant, whereas in this position when he does it like this, notice right there is no resistance. He's losing tension on the muscles, which is the front delts and not the back. And then it's only until he gets to about this position here where he actually gets a little bit of tension on the front delts. And then when he goes up high, he's stacking the joints, and so he's losing the tension on the front delts. But again, Mr. 72-plus-year-old PhD exercise guy, he claims to have a PhD in exercise, and he claims to have been doing fitness all his life. He was in water polo. There's so many things. I don't know whether that's true or not, but all I can go off is the video that he posts and saying that this is for your back, keep your back strong, and so on and so forth, and he hasn't done a back exercise yet. So, I have problems with this, and we'll get into this a little bit later. So he does more of these, and then now he's doing a squat thing, and which works your thighs, but he's not going down low enough to get a real good workout on his thighs. So it's really kind of a minimal type of exercise, again, for something that's supposed to be for your back. And then as he goes forward, he's working a little bit of his abs. But again, if you look at the line of motion and where the resistance band is at, the resistance band, if you're going to be working your abs, should be high. So just like a cable machine where you have the rope and you're coming down, so the line of resistance is behind you and higher up. So that way you can activate your core muscles, in this case, the abs. By doing the little mini squat thing that he's got going on here, that's really not doing anybody any good. But again, this is all that's all for the back, he says, but it doesn't work your back. You actually did a little bit of minimal squat for your thighs, and then a little bit of abs. So then he moves on to this core twist thing, and that doesn't work your back either. What that actually does is work your core in that twisting movement, and you're starting to get the obliques and things like that. Again, the twisting motion and the use of the band should actually be over here behind him, so he gets a good line of resistance on the torso. Now, there's a lot of different machines, and even in the gym that he goes to has a ab twist machine, and if you look at that, that is meant to work your abs and the sides. Again, it's not working the back, but again, like I said, this guy is supposedly, he is the end-all, be-all of senior care. We're working our back, but there's the chest. We're working chest. And then we're doing pressing movements, which works the chest, which he calls simple band pull. He doesn't know the difference between pushing and pulling. If he was actually doing his back and he had turned around and he's pulling the resistance bands toward him, that would actually be working the back as he pulls that and as your lats wrap around and contract. So this is not a band pull, this is a band push. And a push works your chest and it also works your triceps. So as you push out, you're going to be tensing up your chest. You're going to use the secondary is going to be your arms. And yeah, it's as you go closer together, there's no back involved. There's absolutely zero back involved. So yeah, it ends up, it's not really a thing. And, now we're going to work the front delts and keep your back open, strong and open but this doesn't do your back. This doesn't do your back. And the little 2-inch squat that he's got going on there, it is works. It is works. And this is some of the stuff that just kind of bothers me with these senior influencers. You get somebody that goes to the gym a couple of weeks, or maybe in this case, like this gentleman, maybe he was an exercise guru with a PhD in exercise, and he was a water polo king and all the other things that he has said before. But I think he's forgotten a lot. And that just kind of bothers me in the fact that when you try to correct somebody and say, hey, listen, what you're doing here is not a back exercise. What you're doing is not a chest. What you're doing is, and he's had numerous reels and videos where he does similar things. And I've sent him messages and so on and so forth saying, hey, your video, that is not the muscle that you claim that it works. Gave him references and so on and so forth. And unfortunately, he thinks he's all that in a bag of chips. And I find it unfortunate because this misinformation, and I really think it comes down to the point of where people get really, really old. They get some dementia problems going in. Their memory recall is not as good as what it used to be. Everybody will run into that. But when we have people like this, saying that these are back exercises when in fact they are chest exercises, it causes people to, who are clueless, think that this guy knows what he's talking about, and he really doesn't. And then you have other seniors that are clueless that say, oh, well, I'm going to work my back. I'm going to push. And even though he calls it a simple band pull, which is not what he's doing, he's pushing, then you get other people that are clueless doing the exact same thing, thinking they're working their back, getting a strong and open back, and what they end up doing is not working the back, and it just ends up being bad for everybody all around. There again, he's working the delts and so on and so forth. Your back strong and open. He's not working any of that at all. So in other words, when you have people like this guy here, and he's doing these exercises and he doesn't know which muscle groups that they actually work, and this isn't like a one-time thing. And he just rejects any type of correction. I've even posted, information from colleges and physiology departments in what an exercise actually works and what are the primary and secondary muscles that are involved in such exercises. And he just brushes it off as if, they don't know that. I have a PhD. And it's like, I'm sorry to say this, but you might have had a PhD, but I think you've forgotten a lot of your PhD, because if you don't know the basic exercises and what muscles are actually used in those exercises, then you shouldn't be a fitness influencer. It's one thing to have people that go to the gym that are younger. They'll take 2 or 3 minutes, to look and Google and ask OpenAI to, hey, what is a good chest exercise? It takes 30 seconds to look and find out what 3 or 4 good exercises work the chest, and then do your little video. You don't even have to be smart anymore. You can just pull it up and it will show you what to do, and you do it and you make your reel. At least it will be factually correct. But unfortunately, this is a double-edged sword. Is the the fitness community, and especially when you get old people in who don't know what they're doing. And then they have a bunch of people that come online and they're like, oh, yeah, great. I'm going to do that for my back too. Or I'm going to do that for my legs or this or that. And it's like those exercises aren't working those muscle groups. So in other words, you have the blind leading the blind. And it really it's really problematic. I appreciate that this guy ends up, I'm glad that he's motivated. I'm glad that what he's doing is getting in the gym and exercising, albeit it's wrong. All the exercises and the stuff that he is doing is wrong. And it's not working the muscles that he claims it's working on, strong back, open back, so on and so forth, when he's actually, working his chest. Motivating people is good, but you have to have factual and good information. And when you get people like this that are leading other clueless seniors into the gym and you're telling them, oh, do this, you're really not doing anybody a service. You're actually doing them a disservice, and you're not even showing them how to do, let's just say he said he was working his chest. Let's just change the whole narrative and say if he was working chest, and this was the information that he put out, which is mostly chest except for the front delt and the abs and the little tiny squats that he was doing that doesn't work the chest. But let's ignore that. Let's just say he's working chest. Even with the placement of the resistance bands that he has is not in an optimal position. And if you look up how to use resistance bands and how to do exercises for like chest and so on and so forth, you'll find that, the placement of that band is not in a good position. So not only does he not know what exercises works what body parts, he doesn't even know how to use rubber bands for resistance training. Which is very problematic, because now you're going to have a bunch of seniors who are like, oh, I need to strengthen my back and I'm going to do all these exercises, and they don't even know that it's working their chest. So it's like the blind leading the blind. So anyway, I just wanted to do this little video and kind of go over this on Clueless fitness influencers and how important it is to trust but verify. And so when I see fitness claims online, especially by seniors, and it's like makes me scratch my head, and I'm like, what the hell is what is he doing? What are they doing? Why, I've had women that say, do their little reels, older women, and they get to the gym, and so they're wearing their little Jimmy outfits and they're all motivated. And then suddenly, after a few weeks of being in the gym, they end up, they're fitness experts. And so they start making reels and videos, and it's like, no, that's not a shoulder workout. That's an ab workout. I honestly, I kid you not, I have seen people make claims of working and doing certain exercises that will work totally opposite and unrelated muscle groups and claim that's how it is. And it's like, it doesn't, and the sad part is the older these people get, if they don't accept correction now, as they get older and their mind goes more and more, they're not going to accept any type of correction or factual information. I've actually had some seniors tell me that, oh, this is how you do this for this and that. And I had one senior ended up telling me that in 30 days he gained 30 pounds of muscle. No, it's 24 pounds of muscle. And it was, if you just work out like me and you can be a senior like me, and it's like, no, you didn't. First of all, how much did you weigh before and how much did you weigh after? And, do you realize how many calories it takes to put on 24 pounds of muscle? Now, this is some guy who has been lifting weights all his life, and the majority of the gains that you're going to get when you lift is in that very first year. And that could be 12 to 25 pounds of muscle, depending if you're spot on with your routine, your recovery, your nutrition. You are weighing everything that goes into the pie hole, and you're doing your workouts, you're doing the recovery, getting 8 to 10 hours sleep a night, and you're really dialed in, you can experience 12 to 25 pounds of muscle that first year. But the problem is when you become a senior after 40, and definitely, when you get into your 50s and 60s, and this guy in his 70s, trying to tell people that you are going to gain 24 pounds of muscle if you do his program, and this guy was 50 years old, that's not how it works. Because as you age, the testosterone receptors in your body start shutting down. You don't have access to them. The testosterone production in men and women go down over time. And pretty much when you hit your 20s, mid-20s, your testosterone is at the peak. And then after that, it kind of goes down. So when you hit 40 and 50 years old, you don't have a lot of testosterone in your system. It is just a proven fact. And so unless you have an external influx of testosterone, you're not going to be gaining 24 pounds of muscles in 30 days. It is just physically impossible. Even if you were on steroids, you cannot gain 24 pounds of muscle in 30 days. And so for that gentleman, it ends up, it's like, how many calories does it take to build a pound of muscle? And you look on there and it's like 3,800 calories, but actually it's a little bit more because your body has to process that protein. So it's going to take away some of that from the protein, and of course you're going to have some carbs and things like that. You can't do it. And when you start doing the math, like if you go up and you end up, you do 30, let's just say it's 3,800 calories for 1 pound of muscle for your body to build. Granted, you're at the worst part of your life for testosterone production, and we multiply that by 24 pounds, that is 91,200 calories. And if we divide that by 30 days, that means that you're going to have 3,000 calories a day on top of your basic metabolic rate. So the average person is probably going to be anywhere from 1,200 to 15, maybe even 2,000 calories to have a good, a normal amount of calories. Then add in another 3,000 calories on top of that, and you're looking at about 4,000 or 5,000 or 6,000 calories a day. Obviously, this guy, there's no way that you can gain 24 pounds of muscle in 30 days. Now, you can get 24 pounds of weight in 30 days. Yeah, you can eat like a pig and shove everything into your pie hole and go to the gym and think, oh, I gained a bunch of muscle, when in fact you just blew your nutrition plan and you just have a lot of water weight. You could have anywhere from 2 to 6 pounds of water weight, and then on top of that, if you just gorge yourself silly, you could probably gain 20, 24 pounds in a month. But again, you would have to be eating so much that it's 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 calories a day. And with that old-time individual who became a fitness influencer after being at the gym for a month or so, he claims that's how he did it. And he'd been lifting his whole life. And it's like, well, you can't gain more muscle, especially 24 pounds of muscle, if you have been an experienced lifter. To be able to gain more weight, the longer that you're in, the harder it is going to be to gain muscle. So let's say there's reports and studies that have been done where it talks about, well, how much can you gain in that first year of lifting? Your newbie gains are the best that they will be in that first year. It can be anywhere from 12 to 24 in the first year. So what are you going to get in the second year? Now, we're assuming this is all natural, and that's what this person claimed to be. Your second year, you're going to get estimated about half of what you got the first year. So let's say you got, 15 pounds of muscle in the first year. The second year, you might get 7.5 pounds. The third year, how many pounds of muscle are you going to get? Well, you're going to get about half of what you got the second year. So you had 7, so now you're going to get maybe 3.5. And then the subsequent years after that will be half and half and half. Until eventually, when you get up to 7 and 8 years of lifting, you're pretty much maxed at your potential. If your nutrition and recovery and your routine is all dialed in, you're pretty much going to hit your natural limit with that. And so when anybody says, well, I've been lifting for years and I put on 10, 15 pounds, in an obscenely short amount of time with an obscenely simple, easy routine that claims that you only have to do 1 set per body part, the old Mike Mentzer, type of thing, which should be interesting to note that Mike Mentzer had about 7 to 10 years before he came up with his 1 set system. So in other words, he worked out like Arnold Schwarzenegger and all the other bodybuilders, and that's how he got the majority of his muscle mass. So by the time he came up and he said, hey, you only need to do 1 set, he already far surpassed his natural limit, and he was doing multiple steroids along with amphetamines. Yeah, he used speed as pre-workout. And then, of course, he died at the age of 46, and he never, ever wanted never offered, and he rejected the claims to have a control group and test his one set per body part. One set is all you ever need. It's funny how he rejected that claim. And then his brother was also into that. And his brother also died in his 40s as well from heart-related issues. So obviously, the things that took him out of this world were the massive amounts of steroids and amphetamines and speed and drugs that he was taking. And he just tried to make up this system when the traditional lifting system is how he got the majority of his muscle mass. So yeah, you do the math and you look at Dorian Yates, the same thing. And again, if you look at their systems, I know I'm rambling now, but if you look at their systems, science, look at the studies that we have now. If you look at hypertrophy, there's tests and studies that have been done that says, okay, here's one set, and then here's 2 sets, 3, 4, 5 sets, per muscle group, what brings about the most hypertrophy. And when you have 1 set per body part, even if you go 100% and go to total failure, that will always produce less hypertrophy than if you do 2 or 3 sets. Matter of fact, when you do 2 or 3 sets, you can get 40 to 46% better gains in regards to strength and hypertrophy, or vice versa, I forget exactly what it is, than doing 1 set per body part. Now let's reel it back and go back to Mike Mentzer and his system. When you actually look at his system, and I had his books and I actually worked his system, he would do 1 or 2 warm-up sets at 70% of his 1 rep max, and then he would do a 1 working set, which was 100%, and then he would do running down the rack up and down, or doing weights, and then they strip off the weights and he does more until he can't do anymore. They strip off more weights and doing that. So in a sense, what he ended up doing was 3 sets. Yeah. And we also have studies in the fitness world, which is kind of interesting because they show that, 2 or 3 sets per body part is actually more effective, and you don't need to go to 100%. Matter of fact, there are studies that show if you go to 70, 80% or 75% or whatever it is, you get the same amount of gains, but you lessen the amount of injury, because when you start working at 100% of total failure, there's not a significant difference between those. So why put yourself at risk? So you might be asking, well, what is the risk? Well, when you go at 100%, go to total failure, there is statistics that show that as you do that, you are more susceptible to injuries. So in other words, if you go to 100% max, people that do that have more accidents and injuries, muscle tears, muscle pulls, so on and so forth, that impede, that wreak havoc on their body, basically. And it can get pretty bad to where, we're talking about torn pectorals, torn biceps, ligaments, all these things. It can really put a hamper. And the problem is, when we're talking about seniors and exercise, our muscles and tendons, especially our tendons, are not as strong as they used to be when we were younger. So studies have been done with seniors, both men and women, trained and untrained people, to where if they start exercising and doing resistance training, it's best to start off at about 70% of your 1 rep max. And in the case of really old seniors, people in their 70s and 80s who have never exercised before, it's always best to start off even lower. But even you can, there's a study that said that if you lifted 5 pounds, you could experience muscle gain or hypertrophy. So it doesn't mean that, that's all we need is 5 pounds. But even with something, a weight as low as 5 pounds, you can spur on good resistance training and hypertrophy and strength for people that have never worked out before. So that's something to take into consideration when you're talking about exercises. And as we get older, we're more susceptible to injuries. And the study showed that if you go at 70% of your 1 rep max or 100%, there is no significant difference. Now, a bunch of these meatheads and pro bodybuilders and people that do a ton of steroids will tell you, oh, you got to do this, this, and this. Well, the problem is the majority of people, they just want to go to the gym. They want to lose a little bit of weight. They want to reduce the chances of having a heart-related incident, heart attack, stroke, and so on and so forth. So if you exercise 3 to 5 times a week, moderate weights, 70% of your 1 rep max, or even I've trained people and started them off at 50% and lower, Just do what you can and then slowly progress over time till you can do more. So with that type of resistance training, the average person, if they have a good nutrition plan, and you can still have cake and lattes and stuff like that, and you have good sleep, good recovery, and you have your routine like that, and you do your cardio 75 to 150 minutes a week, you won't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but you will reap the benefits of fitness. And again, most people, 99.9% of the time, are not concerned about looking like, Lou Ferrigno or Arnold Schwarzenegger back in the height of their bodybuilding days. Okay, it's unfortunate because so many fitness influencers that are on steroids are saying, well, if you do this, you'll look like me. But the thing is they leave out the one aspect that they don't talk about, and they often lie, is about the anabolic steroids that they take. And they have such low body fat that the problems that they run into is that's not good for your hormones. It's not good for your body being at such a low body fat for long periods of time. So if you're not going to be a competitive bodybuilder, natural or professional, with supplements and steroids, don't worry about it. Don't buy any programs from these people. And let's just kind of circle back and talk about this when we have seniors that are telling you things like this, to where they're saying, hey, do this workout and it works, to keep your back strong and all this, and all the exercises he does are not back exercises. We need to be very careful when we're doing this. And what it's good to motivate people. That's good. I'll give that to him. He's got the heart and the motivation and the desire. But when you don't know what exercises work, what muscles, and you refuse any type of correction, that tells me that he's getting a little old and dementia setting in, and you've forgotten a lot of things about basic exercise, basic human anatomy, and so on and so forth. And you're really just the blind leading the blind. And that's, I think it would be best if seniors like this would not post videos because they're showing people the wrong exercises. They're not doing it right. They don't even know what muscle groups they're actually working, and that can be problematic for new people. So anyway, that's what got up my nose this morning, and I thought I would share that with you. I do some of these every once in a while, and it's unfortunate that the people that, on this guy, he just so rejects any type of correction. And a number of other people have said, hey, that doesn't do that. That's not right. That's totally, and he doesn't care. But what do you do? It's social media. So I can go. Burn it. So anyway, that's what I wanted to do. Put a like and subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate that. You can also buy me a coffee if you want to contact me. There's the email address there. I don't train people anymore, but every once in a while I'll help some people, and I'll dig up in the archives of my notes and the book that I was writing. I'm still writing it. I don't know if I'll ever publish it, but I help people with their routines and nutrition, and some tips and tricks that I've learned through the studies and meta-analysis for hypertrophy and strength training. I kind of go overboard, and so when I go into something, I go into it deep. The average person doesn't, and it doesn't mean that I think any less of anybody that doesn't do what I do. Matter of fact, there's probably no reason to do what I do. A 30 to 45 minute, maybe an hour workout is all you really need with some cardio. Boom, call it, 45 minutes and some cardio and call it a day. I can help you with those routines, and I've made those routines. I've done nutrition plans and so on and so forth. But you can find all this information. And ChatGPT and OpenAI has gotten to the point of where it used to be really bad for that type of stuff, but now it's gotten really good. So you can say, hey, what's a good weight resistance training for using machines and dumbbells for seniors? Here's my body weight, here's my height, weight, all of this stuff. And you can get, the results that they're giving are really, really good, and they're getting better over time. So I'll go through and I'll check from time to time, and compared to the information that I learned and the studies and the meta-analysis. And it's getting so much better. So anyway, we're going to call that a wrap for today. I'm going to finish up my protein because I need that. Still kind of trying to get big. Going to knock 60 on its ass, so to speak. I'm going to be 59 this year, so the whole year 59 is going to be bringing it as much as I can, and we'll enter 60 with a great physique and so on and so forth. So anyway, that's going to be it. Thank you for watching. And if you don't like fitness, I totally get it. That's fine too. If you don't want to do fitness, I totally understand. Been there, done that. But if you enjoy 3D printing, miniature painting, I'm also an American expat who's retired here in Korea, you should subscribe for that as well. So with that, I will see you all in the next video. And John Kennedy says, evening, Steve. Evening to you, sir. And we will see you on the next video. Thanks for watching. Peace. Good stuff. Good.